have always acted, and this is how I will continue to act. Well, certainly someone who knows what that experience is like is Brigadier General in the IDF Reserves, Yossi Kuperwasser, former Director General of the Israel Ministry of Strategic Affairs, former head of the Research Division of IDF Military Intelligence, speaking to us from Rosh Hashanah still. And Yossi, let me ask you, I guess the proper answer to Defense Minister Gantz would be that's not the way to fight Hamas and the violence that we saw on the border today by relying, for example, on Mahmoud Abbas. But what is the other alternative? What should the government be doing to combat Hamas, especially now in the West Bank, that it is not doing?
No, the government is doing what it has to do in the West Bank in fighting Hamas. Where there are many arrests and there's a lot of security activity against Hamas. And we foiled some of the attempts of Hamas to carry out really very harmful terror attacks. And the government is doing that by itself. By the way, we don't see much contribution of the Palestinians to that, although they are also against Hamas. But what the problem in the West Bank right now is that the other terror attacks are carried out not by Hamas. We saw the attack by the Islamic Jihad on the one hand, and we see a lot of attacks that are instigated by people who are exposed to the incitement coming from the Palestinian Authority itself and Hamas. And that is something that, in the long run, this is the mistake I think that the government is doing, that it has to fight against the incitement. And that is not done. Instead of fighting against the incitement, we actually give money to the people who stand behind it, like Abu Mazen. That's a mistake. And yes, Abu Mazen is against the use of explosives and firearms during terror attacks, but he's not against stabbing. He's not against other sort of terror attacks that do not involve firearms and explosives. And that's something that we have to make clear that we are against. And we have suffered casualties from this kind of attacks, quite a few in the recent months, especially in the last month. So that's something that should be taken into account. It's not only Hamas, that everybody is there. And much of it is being done by the incitement of the Palestinian Authority, by the textbooks, by other means that they use in order to incite. And of course, once you incite, somebody is going to take a knife and or drive a car and try to kill Israeli.
Yes, I just want to ask you briefly, a situation where you have the defense minister holding a meeting that it appears the prime minister maybe knew about but is not happy about. Is that a healthy situation for a government?
Of course not. It's, obviously not. But this is the complicated government we have, and we have to accept that this is the situation. That's not the main problem. But, the main problem is that we are still facing a long-term problem with the Palestinians, and we don't have a clear direction in which we go in order to handle it. Look, what happens in the Gaza Strip, for example, what the incident you mentioned, is just the first indication of what may happen in the future, because today, the Hamas and the other factions in the Gaza Strip ended an exercise. That was the second exercise they held in the last couple of days. And they are preparing their capabilities day in, day out for a new round of violence.
We will have to end it here. Brigadier General Yossi Kuperwasser, thank you so much for joining us again on The Rundown.
Thank you.